Thank you very much, Dr. J, for the brief and important points you have mentioned about me. I try to do my best in the time provided, half an hour. Now I am given at 3:03. I will close by 3:33. Okay, and the questions can be taken after that. All of you, please mute your phones. There are some more whom I am not able. Yeah, Rajlakshmi Shekhar, please mute your phone. Okay, so the topic here is primary prevention of cerebrovascular accident. What is primary prevention? Primary prevention is before the disease actually strikes. Okay, secondary prevention is after the disease strikes. So primary prevention is like you, me, and everyone in the audience who are not a patient of stroke, how to prevent ourselves and our patients of this disease before the disease actually strikes. You can see here two logos. One logo is the National Program for Prevention and Control of Cancer, Diabetes, Cardiovascular Disease, and Stroke. This is the Government of India program. This is like any other national malaria program and all, which we used to have. This is the National Program for Prevention of and Control of Communicable Diseases. And the stroke is one among those communicable diseases which are going to be prevented. There is another society for which you can all become members also. All the August audience here, Indian Stroke Association. So these two logos are shown for you so that you can become part of those organizations and serve the topic that is presented today, the patients of stroke. Okay, let's go now. So we are sitting right on a volcano. There's no doubt about that. All of you must have understood that cardiovascular diseases and then the stroke are time bombs and volcanoes which are in ourselves and our patients. We never realize that these will strike us. That is why they're called stroke or attack, heart attack, stroke. The words attack and stroke are as though somebody is attacking us suddenly without any knowledge. But that is not true. We ignore the signs, we ignore the risk factors, and we sit on the volcano and think and unnecessarily ruminate, oh, why me? I only got this stroke. If I had known, I would have prevented. That is where exactly the stop is. Now, the World Health Organization has defined stroke as stroke or cerebrovascular accident is a clinical syndrome. Understand the word clinical syndrome. It is not one presentation. There could be varied presentations characterized by sudden onset. That is why it is called stroke. And focal or global. Yeah, somebody might have mild weakness of the fingers. It still could be a stroke in evolution. So focal symptoms and global neurological. Global means entire half of the body is affected and things like that. A deficit which should last at least 24 hours. Before that, it is called TIA or leading to death, presumed to be due to vascular etiology. Most of the reason, common cause is the vascular etiology, and there is no other apparent cause for these symptoms. So what are the things we learned? One, it is a syndrome. Two, it is a sudden in onset. Three, it can be global or focal, and it should be more than 24 hours, or it could produce death, and the usual common etiology is 5. These are the 5 points we have gained under the WHO definition. Now, we need to worry about diseases which are common and serious. For example, common cold, which is very common, but it is not serious. We don't do anything. For example, rabies, which is quite a rare disease unless bitten by a dog, and it is not common, but it is 100% fatal. So we do need to take immunization for dog bite and prophylaxis also, but we don't really have to worry. Here is a disease which is very common, at the same time very serious also, which puts us in the right perspective to tackle this before it's okay. So you can see here 1 in 6 people have stroke in their lifetime. If there are 6 persons lived on the globe, one of them will be a stroke patient. 15 million people experience stroke each year. 6 million of them do not survive. Okay, something around 6 out of 15 is the mortality there. That is 2 out of 5 or around 20% of them are going to perish. And every minute, every 6 seconds, someone dies from stroke worldwide. So the death due to stroke, 6 million deaths per year, and we had corona, which has 4.5 lakh deaths for the last 2 years. This is the Indian mortality, 4.5 lakhs for a period of 1.5 to 2 years. And we know how much panicky we are, but we don't want to understand that stroke is a much larger problem. 4.5 lakhs is just 0.45 million. Here is a disease which is killing 6 million people over 1 year. Okay. Now, what are the different types of stroke that I can get? 1, ischemic stroke. 2, intracerebral hemorrhage. 3, subarachnoid hemorrhage. The relative proportions are ischemic stroke contributes to 80%, and the ICH, or the intracerebral hemorrhage, it's called the cerebral hemorrhage, is 15%, and subarachnoid hemorrhage is 5%. Ischemic stroke is by far the most commonest. How does the ischemia occur? Just like in the coronary vessels, there is an artery to artery embolization. That means there is a carotid artery. In the carotid artery, there may be an erythematous plaque that can get discharged into the circulation, cerebral circulation, anterior or posterior, and it can get logged there. This is artery to artery ethema moving. The other thing is in situ. The cerebral blood vessel itself may be erythematous and produce a clog which can obstruct the blood flow. The third one is cardioembolism. There could be a thrombus sitting right in the heart, either on a valvular disease or on a non-valvular cardiac thrombus, which can embolize and produce an ischemic stroke. Earlier days, when we used to teach students, we used to say ischemic stroke, embolic stroke, and hemorrhagic stroke. Now we don't consider ischemia and embolism as separate and put them under one bracket and call them whether it is erythematous obstruction or an embolic obstruction. Both come under the ischemia. The second group is the hemorrhage, which again is distinct intracerebral and subarachnoid, because the presentation is very different. In subarachnoid, we have a very intense headache as the presenting feature with signs of meningeal irritation. So what does these 2-3 slides tell us? One, it is a very, very common and very serious condition. And second thing is, it is 3 types: ischemic stroke, intracerebral hemorrhage, subarachnoid hemorrhage, by far the commonest being ischemia. Ischemia can be due to erythematous obstruction, or it could be due to cardioembolism. Now, what are the various risk factors for it? Why I put this poster here is, you can copy this poster and then put it in your clinics for the layman to understand. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, sedentary lifestyle, smoking, high blood sugar, and obesity. These are the 6 important leading causes, etiological factors or risk factors for stroke. Just copy this from the presentation I'm going to share you. You can lift this image up and then put it up as a poster in your clinics. Okay. Now, if you look at the global causes of mortality, of course, ischemic heart disease ranks the number 1, and the next leading cause of death on the globe is stroke. Compared to all other things, stroke and ischemic heart disease score the highest. These two are not 2 different diseases. They mean the same disease. One in the cerebral circuit, the other in the coronary circuit. The common soil hypothesis of endothelial dysfunction. Endothelial dysfunction is the root cause of all vascular diseases, cardiovascular diseases, of which the primary ones are ischemic stroke, and then ischemic heart disease, and then the stroke. Okay, this poster also is for the waiting room of your hospitals. So please copy this poster, lift it up, and then blow it and put it in that. Be fast. This is the sort of mnemonic used. Be fast. What is be fast? B is sudden disturbance in the balance, headache, or dizziness. Okay, patient may suddenly come with balance disturbance, which could be stroke. Vertebrobasilar territory, the posterior cerebral artery problems present with balance. The second one is blurred vision, sudden occurrence of blurred vision in one or both the eyes. Then asymmetry of the face, that is the third one. And the fourth one is an inability to use one arm or leg or both, which is A. And S is the defect in the speech, slurred speech, dysarthria, or dysphasia and things like that, difficulty in speech. And most important, time is very important. Time is brain. Just like time is muscle in the cardiac front, here time is brain. So you must educate the patient about this B fast. B is balance, E is the sudden blurring of the vision, facial weakness with asymmetry, and not able to use arm, either one or two, speech disturbances, and educate the patient that time is brain here. So this slide tells two important things. One is stroke is the leading cause of morbidity and mortality, and ischemic heart disease and stroke together account for about 70% of the deaths on the globe. Is that good news? All of us have to understand this and try and prevent stroke. Okay, and how do my patient know, or how do I alert him? Be fast. What is be fast? Sudden occurrence disturbance in the balance, sudden blurring of the vision, change in the facial appearance with sort of deviation of the face, and then facial weakness, and then arms, either one or both of the lower limbs or upper limbs may be affected, speech disturbance, and half of the body may be affected, and speech may be affected, and time is brain. That is what exactly we wanted to focus. So for the doctors, the clinical signs are speech difficulty. If you test one or more of the limbs show loss of power and sudden loss of power. And again, sudden loss, dizziness, and loss of consciousness may be there, particularly if it is an intracerebral bleed. Okay, intracerebral bleeds usually are associated with unconsciousness, whereas ischemic strokes are usually patient may come with consciousness but confused and disoriented. Sudden severe headache can be there in any form, but it's very pronounced in subarachnoid hemorrhage. Sudden visual loss can also occur. This is nothing but the same slide, but here we are focusing on the medical audience, whereas in this slide we are keeping the focus of the general public, and then we have to put it up in our waiting rooms. Okay, now what are the leading etiological factors or risk factors? We can't say causes, we can say risk factors. The most important one is the systolic hypertension. Most of us are very preoccupied with diastolic hypertension. I'm not going to tell you not to treat it, but you remember systolic hypertension is 4 times more dangerous to cause stroke than diastolic hypertension. Diabetes mellitus, particularly uncontrolled and long duration diabetes mellitus. Dyslipidemia, particularly LDL cholesterol above the normal level, which is very common occurrence, is obesity, and then abdominal obesity or truncal obesity. Smoking is one of the important devils. So what are the leading causes? Systolic hypertension, diabetes mellitus, dyslipidemia, obesity, truncal obesity, and smoking. You may wonder, we asked this doctor to talk about prevention. Why is he talking about the risk factors? The prevention lies in control of the risk factors. There is no other way you can prevent the disease. You can prevent the disease by controlling the risk factors. Okay. There are certain other important causes: unhealthy dietary habits, physical inactivity, structural heart disease like a valvular heart disease, or on which the thrombus can occur, and atrial fibrillation. So you understand, when the atria are well contracted, there is no reason for stasis to occur, and there is no thrombus formation. Suppose the atria are not properly contracting, either due to a valvular mitral stenosis causing atrial fibrillation or an ischemic atrial fibrillation, the atria fail to properly contract. In which case, what happens? There will be stasis of blood. That broods thrombus. And the thrombus, it is in the systemic circuit on the left side, gets dislodged into the aorta, and we never know where it goes and where it lodges. If it gets into the brain, that's it. We have an embolic stroke. And the other important risk factor is atherosclerosis elsewhere. What is that? Suppose somebody has got cardiac disease, already a known myocardial infarct or ischemic heart disease or a triple vessel disease or a double vessel disease or a peripheral vascular disease, he is a candidate for stroke. This we have learned by experience. What happened one day, around 9 o'clock when I started my OPD, a patient walked in. He's a police officer, and he came with severe sweating and chest pain. And before we wanted to take an ECG, we just connected the ECG and took the ECG frank infarction. Before we could do something, of course, we gave him aspirin and preventive treatment to start with, whatever has to be loading dose of aspirin and clopidogrel we have given. And before we could shift him to a higher center, he went to the toilet and collapsed there and died, a police officer. Why I am telling this? This gentleman was admitted in a very big hospital of the city around 8 months back. At that time, he had a hemiplegia. For that hemiplegia, he was admitted and treated. He partially recovered, and they never investigated him for the other vascular disease. They just took an ECG. ECG was normal, and no angiogram was done. The lesson here is not to find fault with someone. If we find a patient with stroke, we have to evaluate the heart. If you find a patient with heart, you have to evaluate the brain, kidney, and peripheral vessels. This is a common soil hypothesis. This I learned in a hard way when I saw that patient. For no fault of mine, the patient came and died in 5-10 minutes, and he was there with the dead body the whole day. I had a hell with that person on the day to dispose of the body. Lots of questions, being a police officer and all that. Okay, so less well documented causes are migraine, metabolic syndrome, obstructive sleep apnea, raised LPA and homocysteine, and hypercoagulability. You may ask me, are they really serious? Yes, there is evidence throwing up that these could work for the development of a thyroma. Combined with the previous factors, which we have seen in the previous slide, these do contribute. What are the non-modifiable risk factors? Advancing age or increasing age, above 55, 60, male gender, Indian ethnicity, low birth weight people, genetic factors. These also are some of the non-modifiable factors. Why do I know the non-modifiable factors? Anyway, I cannot monitor and I can modify, but if we know that a person is a higher age, male gender, Asian Indian, the chances of he developing recurrent stroke or a sort of very progressive stroke are much higher. For that reason, we need to know. So again, I'm going to show the slide: systemic hypertension, diabetes mellitus, and then dyslipidemia, obesity, truncal obesity, smoking, unhealthy habits, and then physical inactivity, structural heart disease, valvular, non-valvular, atrial fibrillation, atherosclerosis, any other vascular friend. Now, migraine, metabolic syndrome, OSAs, LPA, homocysteine, hypercoagulability are some of the add-on newer documented factors with some evidence, good evidence. And increasing age, male gender, Indian ethnicity are important factors. Now, supposing the patient profile you see, a long-standing patient with high blood pressure, long-standing high BP, the chances of presenting with a lacunar state or a thrombosis are much higher. Sudden accelerated hypertension, he will come with a hemorrhage, either intracerebral or subarachnoid. Has peripheral vascular disease, thrombosis. Has AF or valvular heart, embolism. Diabetes, embolism, and also ICH. Smoking, of course, thrombosis and ICH. If patient with history of bleeding disorder, intracerebral hemorrhage. Headache at the onset, subarachnoid hemorrhage. This will tell you, the profile of the patient will tell what will be the presentation. Is it thrombotic, embolic, lacunar, hemorrhage in the brain or in the subarachnoid space? Okay, how do I prevent? Now comes the prevention. There are two ways we approach the problem. Mass population. Mass means population prevention. High-risk individuals to identify and prevent them. Okay, poor management of hypertension, lack of awareness of the morbidity, false reassurance. எனக்கு எப்படி வரும் ஸ்ட்ரோக், எனக்கு வராது என்ற மாதிரி ஒரு low risk perception, non-use of the algorithms, under usage of the mass strategies are one of the leading reasons for not taking action in time. So there are two risk scores given here: the Framingham risk score and also the AAC, AHA, ACC risk score. You can use any one of them and risk stratify the patient. If the 10-year mortality risk by doing the score is less than 10%, one person is safe. If it is more than 10%, 10-year risk is more than 10%, then that is the patient whom we need to vigorously give prevention. Primary prevention of stroke, high-risk individual. So retreat the BP to goal, 120 at the most, 130, 90. Target HbA1c to 7. I'm not going to deal with how do you treat BP and sugar here, and must quit smoking. And if there is a problem with atrial fibrillation, the novel oral anticoagulant drugs can be used. If there is a non-valvular atrial fibrillation, we have to evaluate the patient using CHARD S2 score. And that will tell us what treatment we have to give if it is non-valvular atrial fibrillation. These are beyond the scope of today's lecture. That's why I'm not going to go that. Yes, CAS. CAS is carotid artery stenosis. Erythematous carotid artery stenosis, when we identify, we have to put those patients on prophylaxis. So again, high blood pressure to be controlled to the goal, and HbA1c less than 7. Smoking must be stopped. Anticoagulants in atrial fibrillation, evaluate the atrial fibrillation, and people with carotid adenoma must get prophylaxis. What is the population strategy? Government of India has got this program called Ayushman Bharat. Under that, stroke prevention is there. 215 districts have started. Now it is expanding to more districts. There is what is called the VHSNC, Village Health Sanitation and Nutrition Committee. So that is going to now look after the non-communicable diseases, and accredited social health activist, ASHA. ASHA is accredited social health activist. Majority of us may not know these things. It's better we know and get involved with these teams so that we will be able to help our patients in the periphery. HWC is Health Wellness Clinic. Just like the primary center, health centers, there are health wellness clinics under the Ayushman Bharat. This is to take care of the non-communicable diseases. What do? They screen for BP, dyslipidemia, and diabetes, and counsel on smoking and refer them for treatment. They also create lifestyle awareness in the people. We also have, in a humble way, a project called ECHO. What is ECHO? Empowering communities in health outcomes. It is not the ordinary echocardiogram we take. E is empowering, C communities, H health outcomes, empowering communities in health outcomes. Those of you who would like to get into, be part of the ECHO program, please message me on the WhatsApp. I will give you more details about that. Okay, what is driving the epidemic of stroke? Of course, the high blood pressure and that gear and the diabetes together like gear wheels, they propel the stroke. If we control the blood pressure to goal and keep the A1C to less than 7, we are done in the prevention of stroke to a great extent. That is the message. You can see the article that is listed here. Recently, a beautiful article is published in the Lancet about the preventive strategies that we can use. It is a free to everyone article. You can now download it right after this presentation. I'm going to share that article with all of you. Now, see this slide. It is very easy. So, the heart healthy food and diet, and then smoking, and eat better, and reduce blood sugar, regular physical activity, lose weight, what sort of foods to be used. Again, this is a poster which should go. 80% of stroke and heart disease is preventable. Understand? 80% of stroke and heart disease is preventable by these simple measures. So really, there is no barrier to implement these things, except the barrier is in the mind not to promote it and not to pursue with the patients. So we have to educate them. Everybody should spend their time with heart healthy food, regular physical activity, losing the weight and making the goal weight, keep the sugar under control, and regular checkups. And 30 minutes of physical activity is what that is all demanded. 30 minutes of brisk walking every day without fail. You can have excuses to drop anything, but not exercise. That should be the dictum. So this poster also, you please print and keep it, exhibit in your waiting rooms. Now look at this man. This man is thinking he is smoking and enjoying the smoke. Instead, the cigarette is enjoying him. Okay? Bhogena bhungta vayameva bhungta. Bhartrahari says, we are not enjoying the bhogas are enjoying us. That is what exactly this man thinks he is enjoying the cigarette, but the cigarette is enjoying him. It will produce peripheral arterial disease and cerebrovascular disease and cardiac disease. and limb is amputated with no time. This poster also used to be there in my clinic in Tiruvallur. You also copy this man's picture and show it. Every smoker should get motivated by that. There is a circular chart here. There are two approaches. The central part is the individual strategy and the peripheral part is the population strategy. In general, this is what we have discussed. There are certain fine prints in this, and this I am circulating because this is a very small print. I would like to go through this particular wheel diagram and understand each aspect of that. This is part of the article which I am going to circulate to you from the Lancet. So use that, the individual approach as well and the population approach, both are essential. Now, what is the important message? Time is brain. So when somebody gets stroke, rush him immediately, preferably in the first hour and not later than 4 hours. So because a lot of interventions are there today, which can be done within the time so that he can go home walking instead of being an invalid with hemiplegia and all the conditions which we see in the olden days. Where today we have got beautiful intervention radiology approaches to treat patients of stroke. And we have got thrombolytic treatment also, and arterectomies and all that. So now, what are these? CVD, cerebrovascular disease, coronary artery disease, chronic kidney disease, peripheral artery disease. We think these are 4 different diseases. No, they are all one and the same. Common soil hypothesis, physical inactivity, smoking, diabetes, hypertension, bad food, all these together produce endothelial dysfunction, and they are only one. Managing all risk factors aggressively is the only way we can come out of this stroke. Education about time is brain, managing TIA and TIA and dizziness and antiplatelet agents. Now you understand coronary artery disease is nothing but cerebrovascular disease is nothing but arterial disease is the same as CKD. If you see one, we need to evaluate for all the vascular friends. If there is no current in one room, are we not checking whether the power is there in the other rooms also? The same way we have to do that. Okay, now, so this goes without saying that physical activity is in the forefront of all the cardiovascular diseases, and whatever is colorful, vegetarian food is food. Anything else is not food. Whatever is white, like maida or your ghee or your vanaspati or your butter or your rice or your sugar, definitely heart unhealthy and pro-erytheromatous. Green colored, vegetarian diet, fruits, vegetables, nuts, regular physical activity. These posters also you can exhibit in your nursing homes or in your OPDs. Now, what are the evidence-based recommendations? Screening and all stroke risk assessment should start right at the age of 20 years, continued for healthy individuals every 5 years. Okay, smoking, diet, alcohol, physical activity must be explained. A1C, blood pressure, BMI, cholesterol, diet, exercise. A, B, C, D, E. The A, B, C, D, E of stroke prevention. A1C, BP and BMI for B, C for cholesterol, D for diet, E for exercise. This is the ABCDE of stroke prevention. Low dose aspirin in persons who have higher than 10% risk, 10-year risk by using those codes. Vascular protection, A, aspirin, A, ACE inhibitor, A, atorvastatin, A, A1C control. The 4 ACEs must be judiciously used. Now, this is the time for the ABCDE approach. A, A1C control, B, blood pressure and body weight or BMI, C for the cholesterols, D for and E for the exercise. Now, simply speaking, our habits are too bad. I'm sorry to say, all our habits are too bad, need drastic change. Turn to vegetarian diet, fiber-rich foods, fruits and milk. There are 3 poisons, remember: sugar, oil, salt. SOS in our cupboards. The less we consume them, the safer is our heart and brain. Drive the devils out, smoking and alcohol. Determined to move our feet, limbs, or else we cannot move. A stage will come, we will have paralytic stroke. Only 2 options, my dears, to all our patients: heed to this or else we will perish. In Bhagavad Gita, in the last chapter, Nasroshyasi Vinankshyasi. Those who pays a deaf ear will perish, either heed or perish. So what are the take-home points? Rule number 1, watch what you eat and choose CV healthy food. Number 2, choose to move, else we stop moving very soon. Stop smoking, this will save several diseases. Control your numbers of blood sugar, BP, cholesterol, and BMI. Save your brain, save your heart, and together save 70% of the reasons for mortality. The guidelines for prevention and management of stroke are brought out in the form of a booklet 2019 by Government of India under the non-communicable diseases prevention program. This book also I'm going to circulate. This is a 100 and odd pages book, and that worth reading by anyone, all of us. And please do that. And with this, I'm going to end my talk. Thank you very much.